Good morning. Let me start with a story. There were four ants sitting in a room, ants. And they were talking about their aspirations in life. What do they want to become? What does future hold for them? The first ant said that I want to be so bloody rich that nobody can ever catch me. I will never need to order anything, and everything will appear automatically. So I want to be the richest ant in the world. They turned to the second ant and said, what about you? And she says, I want to be the fastest ant in the world. I want to run faster than anybody else has ever run before. And everybody gave that ant a round of applause. Wow. And they turned to the third ant. And the third ant says, you know what? I want to be a CEO. And that ant was writing her MBA application to INSEAD. And I want to be an MBA. I want to be the biggest CEO of the biggest corporation in the world. And then they looked at this fourth ant. And this fourth ant had legs up on the sill, looking out of the window, smiling, laughing, and saying, hey, Jim, what's your aspiration of the future? And Jim Ant looked back at the three of them and said, I don't want to be an ant anymore. I want to be a butterfly. And they turned to Jim and said, impossible. And Jim said, impossible is waiting for somebody to make it possible. I'm here to share stories of two butterfly teams which attempted the impossible. When you look at a magician, and magician does a trick, cuts a body in half, makes somebody fly, everybody calls it impossible, is because it is outside the boundaries of logic and reason of the people watching. But it is within the boundaries of logic and reason of the people doing. So whenever you attempt the impossible, or whenever I call this the butterfly moment, and you stop wanting to be an ant, or stop wanting to aspire to be an ant, the impossible happens. In the two stories which I share with you, there are some learnings. And I hope you take them away and do what you want to do with them. The first story is about a group of 30,000 employees. And these people turned around a legacy company, as Jonathan talked about it, and turned the $700 million odd company to a $5 billion company in a period of 7 years. A market cap of $1.2, $1.3 billion to a $20 billion market cap. And that turnaround story is a very inspiring story of how a few ants decided to be butterfly. The second story is also equally inspiring, of a group of people who take responsibility of a large-scale social change and brought about a transformation in the life of 7 million children in the poorest of poor villages of India. Once again, a group of ants decided that they want to do something which nobody else has attempted before, and they succeeded. So let me start with the first story. The first story is in 2005. There is a company called HCL Technologies, which is a services company, 30,000 employees, 32 countries, losing mind share, market share, and talent share. And everybody is worried at the board level in terms of the fact that we were once the greatest company in our category, and now we are number 5, number 6, constantly going down. So we need to transform, change the form of this company permanently. And fortunately, I had an opportunity of leading this transformation. When I looked around the company and I asked myself, why are we not doing well? The big issue which hit me was the fact that everybody was trapped in their past. Everybody was happy. Nobody was looking ahead. So the question is, how do you take a legacy company and transform, change the form of something permanently? And this whole butterfly movement was always hitting my head in terms of the fact that the only way you can transform is by stop wanting to be an ant. So the question is, how do you do it? When we started looking for our inspirations around the world, I saw this very interesting experiment being done by the Japanese, or was done by the Japanese automakers, that the innovation of the Japanese automakers was not on the axis of what they do in terms of what cars they produce. They did not attempt to produce a car with 5 wheels or 6 wheels, but they innovated on how they do it. That means, how do they manufacture cars? And that's amongst the first time I saw a cultural transformation of the company, the culture of how you run the company, building a competitive advantage. And obviously, the Japanese car makers were making the same cars as everybody else was making, but they were winning. So the question in our head was, can we transform HCL Technologies not on the axis of what we do, product, pricing, proposition, markets, but actually how we do it, on the how axis? And during those days, Steve Jobs was also coming up with innovating a new axis, the axis of not faster, cheaper, better, Intel, a la HP era, but giving new experiences. So Steve Jobs created transformation of Apple by creating a completely new axis called customer experience. So the question is, can cultural transformation of the organization be its competitive advantage? Can cultural transformation of the company transform the company and gives better returns to all its stakeholders, the employees, the customers, the shareholders, and the society? That question kept bothering us for quite some time, and fundamentally we came down to asking 4 fundamental questions to arrive at what we call our innovation. The first question was, what is the core business of any company? And we concluded that the core business of any company, including us, is to grow faster than the industry, make more profits than the industry, deliver better customer satisfaction compared to the industry, deliver more value for our stakeholders compared to our industry. Second question, where does this differentiated value, where does this growth gets created in a services industry like us? And the answer is, this gets created, this unique value, this differentiated value gets created in the interface of our employees and the customer. Let's call that the value zone. Question number 3, who creates this differentiated value which will help us grow faster? Answer, the employees in that value zone are the differentiation or create the differentiation which will allow the company to grow faster. I think these 3 questions were quite simple. But the 4th butterfly question was a very interesting question. If the employees are in the business of creating differentiation or are the differentiation, then what should be the role of managers and management in a company like this? And to all of us, it was quite evident that if we truly wish to transform our company, we have to give up conventional thinking, think unconventionally, invert the organization pyramid, and make the management accountable to the employee, so that the business of management is to enthuse, encourage, enable the employees to create the differentiation or to deliver the differentiation, which will help us grow faster. Hence was born the concept of employees first, customer second. The business of management is employees first, customer second. That is the only way the business of employees will be customer first. So once the framework of this was ready, the question was that it looked like a great idea. It looked like a disruptive idea. But there are many such ideas which have faltered at the execution stage. And therefore, the question was, how do we execute this vision? What I'm going to try and tell you is all in hindsight. In foresight, there were many, many mistakes. In foresight, for every one good thing I tell you, there were 100 mistakes we made. But the stories look good in hindsight, so I will go down that path. But if you read my book or we get an opportunity of having a longer chat, I will talk about a couple of things, not a couple of things, many, many things which didn't go right. So the first step of execution is to create the need for change. Remember, in my story, when I went around the company, one of the things which was quite evident is the fact that everybody was happy and nobody wanted change. And that reminded me of a story of Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi landed on the shores of India in 1915. Mahatma Gandhi was a very inspirational leader at that particular time. That the number of hundreds of thousands of people who went to meet him when his ship arrived in Calcutta indicated that he was very popular even before anybody saw him in India. So when he came, he was welcomed with open arms. He was given a power of position by made the president of Congress Party within the 4 or 5 years of his coming on board. He had a disruptive, innovative idea called nonviolence, which he had practiced in South Africa for 5, 6 years before coming to India. So here we have an inspiring leader with a disruptive, innovative idea who lands on the shores of India. So the question is, why did it take 32 years for India to gain independence? And there are many reasons for that. But purely from a management insight point of view, my conclusion is that not many people, other than Gandhi and few of his people around him, wanted freedom. They were happy. And it's only when Gandhi figured out the fact that not many people understand that the fact that they are slaves and they need to be free, he came up with new initiatives called Dandi March, burning Western clothes, and all that stuff, and that created a mass movement. So it created unhappiness with status quo. So to us, it was very important is that if we want to transform on employee first, customer second, if we want to transform our culture of the organization, it cannot be done on a circular. It cannot be done on a speech. So the first is we have to do an exercise called mirror, mirror on the wall. We are the ugliest of all. And if we don't do that, then the need for change will not be established. So we did many town halls, and we said we will stop slicing and dicing the data and call ugly, ugly. So once we did that, a lot of people started feeling uncomfortable. And they were increasingly becoming uncomfortable of the fact that this is a broken company. And that is the time I started telling this story, that the next step of any of this is a story which is, what I came across. In a house, a very rich man called a plumber to his house. And the plumber came to his house, and then the rich man sat him down and saying, "Do you know that you are standing in a house which is 800 years old?" The plumber says, "Wow." And he says, "This is the painting which Michelangelo painted, and this is where Nelson Mandela came and sat, and this is where Gandhi did his first fast." And he went on and talking about the rich heritage of this 800-year-old house, which the owner was very, very proud. And after 1 hour of this monotone on how impressive the history of the house is, he finally looked at the plumber and saying, "What do you think?" And the plumber says, "That's all fine, but where the hell is the leak?" In our organizations, employees walk in and we tell them how great the organization is, and we do not tell them where the leak is. And that is the reason most organization transformation fail. Because they are good in intent, but from an execution point of view, we do not create the need for change, and then we do not create the transparency required for the employees to start working on change. So the question is, how do we create trust? The trust between the employees and the CEO was the lowest in most organizations, if you take the Gallup study. And the only way to create trust is to open the doors of transparency and have all data available to everybody and anybody in the company. Therefore, we opened everything. All the financial data was available to everybody. We took a lot of risk and said every data will be available to everybody, so there are no gossips in the range. So the first step was create the need for change, mirror, mirror on the wall, we are the ugliest of all. Second is to create trust by leveraging transparency so that the employees can understand where the issue is broken and start working on it. We took out a full-page ad looking for plumbers. And the point we made was that, you are working in companies where nothing is broken. And if you're a plumber, you need to be in a company where something is broken because you're in the business of fixing leaks. So all the plumbers who wish to be in the business of repairing leaks, please join HCL. And lots of people came, predominantly because they liked the idea. And they are the people we called transformers. Diamond cutters get excited with rough diamond, not polished diamond. Potters get excited with rough clay, not polished clay. So why are we hoodwinking our employees? If we tell them this is a problem, if we tell them this is a challenge, and we tell them that the kind of employees we are looking at are people who get excited with the challenges, excited with the imperfections, then you will attract the right kind of butterflies and you will not attract the right kind of ants. And that's what happened as a second step in terms of creating trust through transparency and creating a culture where everybody wanted to solve problems. However, the core ethos of employee first, customer second was still resolved, predominantly because employee first, customer second was putting management accountable to the employees. And that is the reason the third step became the biggest step. Before I go to the third step, once again, that story is very inspiring. This is a story of a one-armed boy who had only one arm. But his aspiration was to be a butterfly. Aspiration was to learn judo. So he went from one coach to another coach to a third coach and saying, can you teach me judo? And everybody says, no, we can't. Number two, nobody plays judo with only one arm. And then the boy met one coach and said, not only I will teach you judo, but I will help you participate in a tournament and win the tournament. So the boy started studying with his coach. After a year, he joined the competition. First round, second round, third round, semifinals, finals, and he had the trophy in his left hand. And everybody is surprised in terms of what exactly happened. How did this boy, everybody rejected, win the tournament? They rush to the coach and says, what happened? He says, nothing. There is an attacking move in judo. The only counter to that move is to catch hold of the right arm of your opponent and spin him around. And since my boy didn't have a right arm, there was no counter, so he kept on scoring points. Now that story stuck to my head, and I said, where is my one-arm boy, the company? Where is that attacking move for which nobody else is a counter? Now this is somewhere you need to pause. If something is very important to you, the question you need to ask is, what are you willing to do for it? The difference between an ant and a butterfly is your response to this question. So we were faced with the truth that creating a need for change, creating a culture for change, creating plumbers, all that stuff is good English, but not good enough. If you want to transform, you have to come up with something big and bold. So the question is, how do you invert the organization pyramid? We decided my appraisal will be done by all employees confidentially, and the results will be published on the web for every employer to see. And if the rating goes below 8 out of 9, I will lose my job. The reason this was important to do is because either transformation is important, either you truly trust your employees, either you truly believe that the employee centricity of the transformation is how you can transform the company, or you don't. If you truly believe in employee first, then you should be able to take the risk. At worst, you will lose your job. At best, it is like the one-armed boy. You will do something which others consider impossible. So I did my appraisal. My appraisal was, I was the only manager who put out my appraisal. Pricewaterhouse was given the responsibility of ensuring there is a confidentiality. They did an audit, so there is no question of transparency and trust, and I survived. Second year, 1,000 of my colleagues joined me. Third year, 6,000 of my colleagues joined me. By the time our company was 100,000 employees, there were 8,500 of my senior managers whose appraisal was done by the employees every year, confidentiality. And the organization had transformed in one big, bold step overnight. Now, one of the important lessons of all these three is the fact that it worked. I think there are two aspects to it. There is a financial aspect to it, of the market cap increasing 20 times, revenue profitability increasing 6 times in the peak of recession. Customer satisfaction, we became the #1 in customer satisfaction. The case of employee satisfaction, we became the #1 in employee satisfaction. But I think over this whole journey of 7, 8 years, when I was a vice chairman and CEO, I think one important lesson which started originating in my mind is the employee centricity and the lack of focus on how employees can transform organizations. And the number of companies who are not doing this is interesting, and the number of HR people, including those sitting in the room, not understanding the might of a human capital and doing more with it rather than just satisfaction and measurement and all this stuff. So that really started bothering me, and I will come and circle back to that point after the story number 2. The story number 2 started in 2013. When I started looking around, I realized that I am part of the fortunate 1% of India. But India has a very large number of unfortunate people. When we looked at a space called education in India, we have 144 million children studying in our rural schools. Different surveys, third-party surveys, have indicated that 82% of these 144 million children studying in rural government schools cannot count beyond 99 in grade 5. Cannot count beyond 99 in grade 5. Cannot construct simple sentences in their local language. The demographic dividend of India is slowly going to become its biggest problem, of not just unemployed youth, but unemployable youth, predominantly because the education system is broken. And when I started looking at what is wrong with the education system, I found that there were many problems to it. The problem number 1 is the government has doubled its expenditure on education, and the learning outcome has gone down year on year, so money is not the issue. The teachers who go to rural villages to teach are not educated enough, but nobody else is willing to go to rural villages and teach. The children who go to school work part-time and go to school part-time. So sometimes they come to school and sometimes they don't come to school. The first meal for most of these children is the midday meal. At noon, they have the first meal. So they have to study in school till noon without food. So when you look at the number of problems, they were large. When I sat down with my wife, Anupma, and I was deciding what I should do next, it was very clear in our mind that pursuit of profits, the days are over. We need to solve this. And if we are not going to forget about our money, but if we are not going to spend time and resources to resolve it, we have not given back to society what society gave to us. So 2013, we started Sampark Foundation with a purpose of delivering large-scale social transformation. But we wanted to be different. It is not philanthropy. That's not of interest. Transformation. And we went back and started hiring butterflies all around us. And the innovation journey at Sampark Foundation followed the same path as HCL Technologies. So the first question we asked is, what is the business of Sampark Foundation? And I call it business. And the answer was to create unique differentiation so that the learning outcomes improve. Learning outcomes which have not improved for the last 20 years should improve. That's our business. If they don't improve, we have failed, period. It is not what we do, it is the impact we create. Second question, where does this learning outcome get improved in a social context? And we very quickly zeroed in that the learning outcome gets created in the interface of the teacher and the child. Same answer as HCL Technologies. Okay, so that's the learning zone, the interface between the teacher and the child. So third question is, who is creating the learning outcome, or who is not creating the learning outcome? And we came out very quickly that the only person who can create learning outcomes is the teacher. Whether she is or she is not, that's a different issue. So the teacher can create the learning outcome in that interface. Fourth question, why is she not? Because nobody has enthused her, enabled her, and put teachers first. So we said, let's do it. Let's make teachers the center of our solution. And everybody laughed at us. Like the three ants, there are many ants who said impossible. These guys are not interested, they are not learned, they will not do it. And we said, let's try. So we were inspired by, like in HCL Technologies, the first inspiration for us was Bollywood. Bollywood is where you go to a village, they put a screen between two walls, they play using a projector, and they forget hunger, poverty, leaking roofs, sickness, and they have an immersive experience. So question number one, can we bring the Bollywood experience of immersive experience to the classroom? Question number two, there is no electricity in rural villages, in rural schools. So I cannot use computers, and especially computers multiplied by 144 million is very expensive. So how do we create this unique immersive experience? What technology do we leverage? And interestingly, I was finding that the mobile phones in villages were being charged by cycles, dynamos. He says, okay, can we drive a device using the battery which can be charged by a cycle, and that device can come into the classroom? So we created a battery. So the device was created around the battery. Okay? Third inspiration was Mary Poppins. Now, Mary Poppins had a very significant impact on my children. And the question is, can we create an Indian Mary Poppins? So we created what we called Sampark Didi. Sampark Didi had the same voice as Mary Poppins. She sings, she dances. So we audio recorded all her lessons, put it in an audio device, which is a chargeable battery, in the same Bollywood song and drama and the high tone of it, put it in a box, and our innovation was ready. Once our innovation was ready, and it sounded like a disruptive innovation, because through the audio device we could teach maths, through the audio device we could teach English, we were ready to execute. So the question is, why would teacher carry this forward? Because teacher owned Sampark Didi. Nobody else owned Sampark Didi. So the execution part is we trained teachers. We trained 200,000 teachers every year. We gave them this kit, which includes Sampark Didi and many other TLMs. Teacher went to the class, and suddenly the class ignited, because there is no song, there is no dance in the class, they are dull and boring, and suddenly the class ignited. And who is the hero? The teacher. And who do kids love? The teacher. And then the teacher wants to do more. We are the only training program which has 150% attendance. That means a lot of teachers who are not invited come for the training program. So we executed this, and we do monitoring, we gave them an app, we did a lot of all these things. Today we have 7 million children in our program across 76,000 schools with 200,000 teachers as part of a program. Learning outcome, remember I told you, in grade 5, children cannot count beyond 99 or construct simple sentences. Independent surveys have shown grade 2 children, 89% of that could multiply and divide, 89%, and construct simple sentences in English. On 15th of August last year, there were 3.2 million children who performed an English play on the village square called My Family. It was a 20-minute English play which these kids performed for their grade 2 and grade 3 children. So therefore, there was a lot of transformation which we started seeing happening. If I step back and saying, what is the common thought between these two butterfly moments? In my mind, the common thought between these two butterfly moments is the centricity of a human mind. When there was an industrial revolution, rightly so, we got into this world called manager, the ability to manage. And therefore, we were bunching people together so that instead of getting one output, we could get 10 output, or we could get 100 output. Therefore, HR was all about organizing skills, appraisal skills, process skills. But the industrial age is far gone. Now we are in the innovation age. And as we are in the innovation age, the question is, we need more butterflies. How do you create a culture of innovation? You cannot create a culture of innovation without trusting the employees. You cannot create a culture of innovation in the same way as you used to manage in the industrial age. So the employee centricity has become so much more important today than ever before. If you do not innovate as an organization, you're dead. The question in both these butterfly moments or butterfly stories is the fact that you can innovate irrespective of how badly trapped you are, which is the HCL technology story, or you can innovate in a position where you don't even have control on the teachers. The teachers don't report to me. You can influence change if your purpose is right. And I think that is the crux of the employee-first or teacher-first initiative. We are all blessed in life today to be in the position we are in. I am blessed, and so are you. Otherwise, you would not be in this conference. It is not about philanthropy, or it is not about what you are doing. But the question to ask is, can you ignite this 6 billion population by believing in people who are next to you? It starts from there. And if we can believe in them and trust them, enthuse them, encourage them, give them an opportunity they deserve, then they will walk into your organization and create unbelievable magic. You have the power to create butterflies out of ants. And I hope you do it. Thank you.